Welcome to History Channel. Be sure to subscribe and like so you don't miss out on more videos like this one. A weary American soldier, his face marked by shock, walks past wounded comrades on Omaha Beach. It is June 6, 1944, the bloody landing in Normandy. Around him, chaos and pain unfold, yet he keeps moving forward. The photograph captures the cost of liberation etched into human endurance. Ted Bundy stands before Judge Edward Cowart in a Miami courtroom in July 1979, convicted of murdering 2 Florida State University students. His composed face masks chilling crimes. The judge's gavel seals his fate, turning one of America's most infamous trials into a symbol of justice confronting calculated evil. A bustling Bogotá street in the early 1960s shows Colombia at a crossroads of tradition and modernity. Cars weave among pedestrians, storefronts display goods, and people move with purpose. The photograph preserves a moment in the capital's growth, reflecting a society stepping into an era of transformation and rapid change. Thomas Whaley, photographed in the 1880s, stands as the builder of the Whaley House in San Diego. His vision gave rise to one of California's most historic homes. Known today for both architectural legacy and ghostly tales, the image recalls the man whose foundation remains a landmark of American heritage. Sergeant Stubby, a small but fearless dog, sits proudly decorated in a photograph from 1920, the most honored canine of World War I. He served with American soldiers in the trenches. His bravery, from warning of gas attacks to comforting the wounded, made him a true symbol of loyalty and courage. In 1941, Filipino soldiers trained with a machine gun under the watchful lens of Carl Meddens for Time magazine. With war looming in the Pacific, these young men prepare for a coming storm. The photo conveys both determination and vulnerability, foreshadowing the brutal battles they would soon face against invasion. Desmond Tutu, newly appointed Bishop of Johannesburg, stands calmly before a police officer in 1985 South Africa. The regime seeks to silence a protest, yet Tutu confronts the moment with peaceful defiance. The photograph captures a moral leader embodying courage, turning faith into action against apartheid's harsh machinery of oppression. At Nabul's Camel Market in 1965, rows of animals stand beneath the North African sun. Traders, dressed in traditional attire, negotiate prices while buyers inspect the herds. The scene reflects a centuries-old marketplace tradition where commerce and culture meet, embodying Tunisia's enduring link between ancient livelihoods and modern economic rhythms. Smoka Square in Lwów, Poland, photographed in 1925, shows the city's life before the upheavals to come. Children play, people stroll, and buildings rise with quiet dignity. Today, the square lies in Ukraine, yet the image recalls a European crossroads, forever shaped by shifting borders and the weight of history. Radosław Sikorski, then a young journalist, appears in Afghanistan's mountains during the Soviet-Afghan War. Around the late 1980s, camera slung and resolve steady, he documents a brutal conflict few outsiders dared to witness. The photo reflects both risk and determination, as he captured war's realities for the world to see. In March 1961, Willy Brandt met President John F. Kennedy at the White House. Brandt, then the mayor of West Berlin, discusses Cold War tensions with America's leader. The two stand united in purpose, facing the Soviet challenge. The photograph symbolizes solidarity, where the fate of Berlin echoed across a divided world. In Leningrad on June 22, 1941, Soviet civilians huddle around a radio, hearing that Germany has invaded. Their faces show fear and disbelief as war suddenly engulfs their lives. The photo freezes a moment of collective dread, the beginning of a siege and suffering that would scar the city for years. Karl Marx, photographed in Margate, England in 1866, appears aged yet intent, pen in hand. At 48, he labored to complete Das Kapital, the work that would define his legacy. The seaside setting contrasts with his task, as the man's thoughts reached beyond leisure toward ideas that would change the world. At a 1939 pro-Nazi rally in New York, Jewish protester Isidor Greenbaum rushes the stage to confront Speaker Fritz Kuhn. Security guards struggle to restrain him as the crowd erupts. The photograph reveals a rare act of defiance, an ordinary man unwilling to stay silent against rising hatred on American soil. In Moscow, 1980, Polish Olympian Władysław Kozakowicz secures gold in pole vaulting. As Soviet fans boo, he delivers his infamous gesture of defiance. The moment becomes more than sport, it is a protest against political oppression. Captured in one frame, his victory symbolizes resistance and the unyielding spirit of an athlete under pressure. The head of the Statue of Liberty was put on display in France in 1878. Visitors gather, marveling at the immense copper piece before its assembly in New York. The image preserves a moment when liberty itself was still an idea in transit, a gift not yet raised upon American shores. In Bethlehem, 1988, a Palestinian Christian joins protests against Israeli occupation. Captured by Javier Balwuz, the figure embodies both faith and defiance, standing in solidarity with others in the tense streets. The photo reflects a deeply human struggle where belief, identity, and resistance intersect during one of the region's darkest decades. On July 12, 1979, chaos erupts at Chicago's White Sox Park. Thousands of fans storm the field during a doubleheader, part of the infamous Disco Demolition Night. The spectacle halts play, symbolizing both cultural rebellion and sporting mayhem. The image remains one of baseball's wildest and most disruptive nights in history. President John F. Kennedy visits Cape Canaveral's launch complex, 37 on November 16, 1963. Just days before his assassination, he tours the missile test site with visible interest. The image captures America's leader bound to the future of space exploration, linking political vision with the pioneering spirit of the space age. Jacqueline Kennedy sits watching her husband debate Richard Nixon live on television. September 1960. The young senator faces the vice president in America's first televised debate. From her living room, Jackie observes history in the making. The photo reveals not just politics, but the intimate human side of a transformative campaign. Abai Stockton, photographed around 1946, stands as a trailblazer in women's fitness. A gym owner, writer, and organizer of the first women's weightlifting contest, she broke barriers in a male-dominated field. The photograph captures her strength and confidence, preserving the legacy of a woman who reshaped athletic opportunity for generations to come. In 1944, a battered B-17 Flying Fortress of the 327th Bomb Squadron lands, scarred with flak damage. Its frame tells of harrowing missions over Europe where survival was uncertain. The photograph reflects both the brutality of air warfare and the resilience of crews who carried on despite near-fatal encounters in combat. Shortly before the 1972 Summer Olympics in Munich, the new Olympic Stadium opens to public visitors. Its sweeping architecture symbolizes modern Germany's aspirations on the global stage. Crowds wander through the futuristic venue, unaware of the tragedy that would soon follow. The photo preserves a fleeting moment of optimism and pride. In 1943, women railroad wipers in Clinton, Iowa, cleaned a massive steam locomotive. They work with determination, filling roles left vacant by men at war. The photograph captures the quiet heroism of women in industry, their labor vital to keeping trains moving, symbolizing resilience and the changing face of the workforce. On June 5, 1989, protesters in Beijing confronted People's Liberation Army tanks near Tiananmen Square. The standoff occurs a day after the massacre, tension heavy in the air. Civilians and machines face each other in silence. The photograph becomes one of history's most powerful symbols of courage against overwhelming force. In New York, 1947, NAACP members picket outside a theater, urging a boycott of The Birth of a Nation. Their signs demand dignity against racist depictions in film. The photo captures a moment of organized resistance as civil rights activists challenge damaging stereotypes, pushing America toward accountability and cultural change. In December 1945, Japanese civilians line up in Shanghai for repatriation. Their belongings await inspection, while officials check clothing and luggage. The war has ended, and displacement marks their return home. The photograph speaks of transition, uncertainty, and the immense human toll left behind after years of devastating conflict in Asia. In 1942, Adolf Hitler and Martin Bormann stand at the Wehrmacht headquarters in Ukraine, known as Werwolf. The photograph shows the Nazi leadership in a forward military post, directing campaigns in the East. It reflects both the machinery of occupation and the grim reality of war, dictated from hidden strongholds. German officials in 1943 re-erect a monument to Peter the Great in occupied Taganrog. Soviet statues have been removed, replaced with symbols of another power. The photograph reveals how invaders sought to reshape memory through monuments, using culture and history as tools of dominance during the shifting tides of World War II. In August 1992, a destroyed Ukrainian BTR-70 lies shattered in Sarajevo during the siege. Once part of a UN peacekeeping unit, the armored vehicle now smolders amid ruins. The photo symbolizes the chaos of the Balkans, where peacekeepers themselves became casualties in one of Europe's most brutal late 20th century conflicts. An Austro-Hungarian soldier peers into a trench where Ottoman troops man a machine gun in Galicia, 1916. Allies in the Central Powers. Their cooperation reflects the vast network of fronts in World War I. The photograph captures soldiers bound by duty, holding fragile lines amid the brutal Eastern campaigns. The only surviving image shows Stalin's two deadliest police chiefs together in the 1930s, Lavrentiy Beria and Nikolai Yezhov. Yezhov oversaw the Great Terror, purging countless lives before Beria replaced him. Rumors claim Beria personally killed Yezhov. The photo stands as chilling testimony to power, betrayal, and the deadly machinery of repression. On the Macedonian front in 1918, a small infantry patrol scouts the terrain. Exhausted but alert, they move through rugged land where empires clashed in overlooked campaigns of World War I. The photograph captures the quiet tension of soldiers far from home, searching for threats amid silence before battle. In 1975, Keith Moon and Iggy Pop share a wild moment, their energy uncontained. Rock and chaos blend as two icons of excess embody the spirit of the decade. The image speaks of youth, rebellion, and music that broke boundaries, leaving behind legends defined as much by chaos as sound. On January 20, 1961, John F. Kennedy takes the oath of office at the Capitol. Former President Eisenhower, Vice President Lyndon Johnson, and Richard Nixon watch. The photo preserves a moment of transition, when a young leader spoke of hope and challenge, marking a new chapter in American politics. In 1906, the lens captures Ko Utz, a Caddo Native American. His portrait reflects dignity and heritage, a moment frozen amid cultural transformation. By the early 20th century, many Native peoples faced assimilation pressures, yet photographs like this preserve identity, traditions, and faces that speak across time with resilience and quiet pride. Children played joyfully in Hanko's snow in March 1938, unaware of what lies ahead. Within months, their city would become a battleground in the Sino-Japanese War. The image, preserved by Robert Capa and Cornell Capa, contrasts innocence against the looming devastation, offering a haunting glimpse of life before destruction arrived. In October 1944, Soviet soldiers and Yugoslav partisans embrace in Belgrade after liberation. Flags wave, weapons are raised, and joy fills the streets. The photo shows unity between forces and a people freed from occupation. Yet beneath the celebration lies exhaustion and the knowledge of hardship endured through years of struggle. Around 1900, a group of miners in South Africa pauses deep underground. Their team, racially mixed despite harsh segregation, sits together for a photograph. Covered in dust, their faces reflect both fatigue and resilience. The image offers rare insight into the realities of labor in the gold mines at that time. Japanese troops march into Shenyang in 1931 during the Mukden incident. Their arrival marks the beginning of full Japanese control over Manchuria. The photo shows soldiers entering a city where life would change under occupation. It captures the moment when aggression, politics, and empire reshaped an entire region of China. In 1992, Vladimir Putin, then 40, carried shopping bags for St. Petersburg's mayor, Anatoly Sobchak. His role as committee head for external relations was modest. Within a decade, however, he would rise to become Russia's leader. The photograph captures the beginning of a political ascent that would reshape the world stage. In Apia, a meeting of the Samoan Nazi Party takes place in the 1930s, officially tied to the German NSDAP. The branch struggled with poor organization and disregard for Nazi racial rules. The photograph reveals an unusual chapter of history where ideology traveled far, but its roots proved fragile abroad. In 1919, Soviet revolutionary Felix Dzerzhinsky stood with his Cheka agents. This organization, the first Soviet secret police, soon gained international notoriety for the Red Terror during the Civil War. The photograph captures the stern faces of men who embodied revolutionary violence, enforcing power through fear and unflinching loyalty to ideology. In 1918, the Council of Lithuania gathered to sign the Act of Independence. The men stand solemnly in Vilnius, sealing the nation's claim to freedom. The photo preserves a pivotal moment when Lithuania emerged from the empire's shadow, asserting sovereignty, even as wars and shifting powers threatened its fragile future. In Crimea, 1943, quiet scenes of daily life are photographed. Children play, families walk, homes stand calm. Yet within a year, everything would change as the Crimean Tatars faced forced deportation. The images remain haunting reminders of fragile normalcy, moments of peace recorded just before entire communities were torn from their homeland. In March 1938, Austrian and German officials dismantled a border barrier during Anschluss. Smiles and gestures of cooperation hide the reality of annexation. The photo captures the symbolic removal of separation, as Austria was absorbed into Nazi Germany. It represents both a political turning point and the erasure of sovereignty. In August 1989, thousands of Lithuanians joined hands in a human chain across the Baltic states. Known as the Baltic Way, the peaceful protest stretched hundreds of miles. The photograph reflects unity and defiance against Soviet control, a moment when ordinary people stood together, demanding freedom with silent, unbroken strength. In 1928, Czechoslovak President Tomáš Masaryk addressed a crowd during the Republic's 10th anniversary. His speech honors a young nation born from the ruins of empires. The photograph shows a statesman revered for guiding independence, as citizens gathered in celebration. It captures pride and resilience in the heart of Europe. Snow covers Yunnan, China, in the mid-1940s, an unusual event for the region. A house and waterhole appear in the frame, serene against the white blanket. The photograph preserves a rare moment of beauty in wartime years, a reminder of nature's quiet resilience amid human conflict and uncertainty. At the Boston Trade School for Girls around 1910, young students sketched designs to sell as Christmas gifts. Their focused faces reflect opportunity and discipline in an era when education for women was still limited. The photograph captures the beginnings of empowerment, where training and creativity offered paths to independence.